Welcome to Buildings and Business, my global education platform that covers all things real estate and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Alexis Hart McDowell, and today we're going to be talking about international real estate investing in the Dominican Republic. And I have a special guest for you all today, none other than attorney Maria Abreu of Abreu and Associates. So if you're looking to invest in the Dominican Republic, stay tuned because we're covering all things from contracts to taxes to developers, you name it, everything you need to know about investing in the DR. We're going to talk about not only how to secure an attorney, various investment types. We're going to be talking about payment structures, contracts, title, taxes, income. We're going to cover it all for you. So if you're trying to be an international real estate investor, this is the place for you. So join me, Maria Abreu. Maria, now I know I messed it up. It's Jose Abreu, so I know it's Maria Abreu. I have to say Jose first, and then Abreu comes out just automatically. So Maria Abreu from Maria Abreu and Associates in the Dominican Republic. Welcome, Maria. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. The legendary Alexis Hart McDowell heard great things. It is an honor to be here. And I heard you were just in the PR, so the next time you come, we have to have a session.
Oh, I said, I'm going to go back.
And I don't mean business.
I'm going to look you up. We're going to sit down and have us a good time. So Maria, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became an expat and are now living in the DR?
Okay, well, I was born and raised in the U.S. Okay, about almost 20 years ago, I came here with my husband, was married back then, not now, separate story. Anyhow, so I came here and I was working for the law firm in New York remotely back when, we had remote desktop, which is a dinosaur now to anybody who knows IT. And I would travel back and forth. And I did that for the first 7 years. And then at some point, a colleague that I knew from the States decided, why don't we try setting up a service to help out expats with their immigration processes? So we did that. I had to go to law school here. I left the firm in New York and went to law school here. And then, in time, she went back to the States and I ended up, staying with the firm. So at some point, the firm's paradigm started to change and people became interested in residency under the investment program. And I know that when you talk about residency under investment, you think about how much do I have to invest, but that's only one avenue. Pensioners that earn over a certain amount, those who have, passive income can qualify for investment residency and thereby benefit from the incentives that category of residency brings. So 90% of what we handle is investment residency, and that's why we've become quite knowledgeable on the subject.
That is so fantastic. I think a lot of expats and potential real estate investors who want to invest in the DR, you all have a lot of development going on right now. Love the fact that, one, you're from the States, so you've been through the process. You own property down there, right? And you're an attorney, you're a licensed attorney. So they will gravitate to all of those benefits that you offer because you have someone who understands their mindset, right? They understand not only how contracts work in the US, you can help them understand, hey, we don't do that down here, or that's the same, or it's a little bit different, or the outcomes are different. So when you have the understanding of how legalities and business works in both worlds, the US and the DR, it is nothing but a benefit. And I think a lot of real estate investors would be very attracted to you because of that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how to vet an attorney in the DR? Here in the States, we go to law school, got to pass the bar exam. There's a background check, there's a criminal check. We're registered with the bar. We got to do CLEs every year to keep our legal understanding, our legal knowledge up, right? Is there a database down there? And how does one go about finding and vetting a DR attorney?
You can absolutely, there's the equivalent of a bar association here. Where you can check if an attorney is registered, licensed attorney is registered. Also, you can ask the attorney to show their credentials. They have to have an ID that says abogado, so you can check that. But In the case of most people, they don't want to go to add that to all that they're doing. So they'll just go to recognized firms. You have firms that are known in the country, reputable firms. And that's always the best thing to do. Go to a reputable firm because you know this firm is registered with the state and thereby required to have licensed and attorneys that offer the kind of services established by the law. That's the other thing. It guarantees that you're not going to get an attorney that's going to get creative.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be creative when we're overseas.
You have to operate under the limits of the law. So going to a reputable firm is always, a firm that is known. And you could always tell. I mean, they're on the internet, they're informative. You see that they, like in our case, we do conferences, we have a YouTube channel, we're out there. So these are firms that you can, that you can absolutely feel safe about dealing. And the other thing is, it's important to establish conditions and costs in the beginning. I think that in order to avoid issues with an attorney, the communication, it should always be written. You should always have emails. Not all attorneys do.
She said written and in email. Make sure it's in written. Understand the fees up front.
Yeah, because in our initial email, for instance, we list all of the services, what is covered, what is not, what is the cost. We provide the approximate timeframes. Now, once a person makes the initial payment to retain us, that's legally binding. That email is legally binding because it talks, because when we're talking about, people overseas, because most of my clients retain me without being in the country, that's legally binding. Here it is. So that email detailing services, what you're promising, what your cost is, okay, is binding once that first payment is made. So I think that's important. The communication is important. And I'll tell you, what happens a lot of times with lawyers, and that's a little bit the mentality in the country where they're working on the file and it's a need-to-know basis. My clients want to know everything. They want you to write to them.
Too. I'm like, I spend so much money overseas. I'm getting ready to do a big, huge real estate investment. I need to know everything. I need to know where we're at. It's not something I can just walk down the street, or drive downtown and meet with my attorney, right? It's like, you got to keep me informed.
You got to let me know. And that's something I've helped we've worked on vigorously, because it's not that your attorney is not working. The problem is that the communication is not what you would like. Listen, one of the reasons, and I have to say this, that our firm is so sought after, it's not because we're better than anybody else. It's because we are expats. We've been through the process that our clients are going through. So we understand all of the anxiety. We understand, that besides the process that you go through, that checklist, finances, legal status, blah, 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 there's the emotional process you go through. So that makes us empathetic, and thereby we go the extra mile. What do I mean by this? I can't tell you how much time I dedicate to talking my clients off of a ledge every once in a while.
Sometimes I get it. I appreciate that.
It's the truth. I went through so much to move down here, even people criticizing it, and they were just giving me so much stress. By the time I got here, I needed to be like done for. I couldn't deal with people. I needed to just like reset. So I get that. And I think that's what makes us valuable to the expat community internationally, our empathy. We are one of you. You guys are the before and we're the after.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Maria Abreu and Associates is one of the
Abreu and Associates. You could take the Maria out.
Okay, Abreu and Associates. This is Maria Abreu, but it is Abreu and Associates, right? As a top law firm that has expats who can walk you through the process and has not only the knowledge, the legal knowledge, the business expertise, but the empathy that you're going to need as well operating overseas. So I just want to touch real quick. So we understand, they go to law school down there. There's a database, a bar association. Let's touch on realtors real quick, because with there being so much development there and being so much interest with international investors, scam artists arise, right? So we want to talk about, is there licensing for realtors? Who can solicit an investment deal? Who should I, if I decide to greenlight a deal, where does my money go? Here in the States, it depends. I'm in Illinois. We have title companies. So I feel very safe when I wire money to a title company, right? I'm not sending it directly to the developer, the seller, or whatever. So, or even the broker, right? So talk to us a little bit about licensing for realtors, how to avoid scam artists, that type of thing.
Okay. First of all, it's good that we mentioned this, because the first thing you have to realize, DR, US, two different countries. So you cannot look at the real estate process, even though it may have similarities from the standpoint of how things are done in the US. Get that out of your head. Totally different country, totally different setup. And what may seem to you ridiculous, it's how things are done here. So realtors are not licensed here. That's the first thing we got to get out of the way. You're going to see that a lot of times realtors, as it happens in the US, take the place of an attorney. They will hand you the contract. They will handle this and that. And you're thinking that they're in some way licensed or certified, and they're not. A housewife can say tomorrow, I want to sell homes, and she can do it.
Wow.
There's no process to get them certified or registered. So that being the case, a real estate process must unequivocally be presided by your attorney. Get an attorney.
All right.
And they're separate, and it's not because they're looking to scam you. I'm going to go back to saying that a lot of times it's not scamming. It's a lack of knowledge. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
No. And even though they may have basic knowledge and they're honest, they're still lacking, in-depth knowledge of the law and the consequences that can ensue if things are not done properly. Okay? And I'll give you an example. When you're going to buy a property, you're either going to buy in a project, that we have a lot of those, you've seen them. They have these developers that do these large tourist projects. Yep. Or you can buy an individual home from someone that you were referred to in a building. Okay, or in a residential. Okay. The first thing that needs to be done, that property has to be vetted. Due diligence. Due diligence.
Two magic words when it comes to real estate, people. Due diligence. Is title clear? Is the person who's selling you the property actually the owner? Do they have the right to sell it to you? Right?
That's exactly right. Because in this country, and I want to say, there are certain customs in this country that make it necessary to carry out certain due diligence. For instance, in this country, especially in the rural towns, it is very popular for people to have possession of a property, but not the title ownership.
Wow.
What do we mean by this? Well, my family's been here for decades. They've been here since the 70s. My grandmother, they went and built houses there. What is the situation? Well, years ago, decades ago, that's exactly how it happened. People will go to a rural area that's not exactly, supervised by the state, although it belongs to them. Okay. It could belong to someone who's long gone, and nobody has a real claim to the property. So they just, put a little fence over it, built the house on it, decades sitting there. The whole town knows it's, you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
yes.
They have possession of it in that they're being allowed to remain there.
Remain there, right.
However, as of 2007, the Dominican Republic, passed a law wherein a property has to go through a process in order for you to have title ownership. The land must be surveyed. The transfer tax on the land must be paid to the Dominican government. Okay. And then all of that has to be deposited in the registry office, which is how titles are cleared. The registry office now receives a file with all the paperwork, the taxes that have been paid, survey that has been done, and will emit a title in your name. or what is known in the US as the deed of the property in your name. Okay.
Wow.
Now you are the title owner. Now, if you don't have that, but in this country, since there's a lack of knowledge in all of these rural areas, mountain, cliff towns, beautiful areas. So people will say, I'll sell you this land with a contract. And now the foreigner will pay for the land, sign the contract, and think they own it, not realizing that what they have purchased is the possession.
Wow.
In other words, you are allowed to live there undisturbed until, and let me give you this example. In the cliff town, in the side of the DR where I was living in the north, from Santiago, which is the second largest city, going up to Jánico, which is a cliff town, there was a little community called Villabao. All of these people were a community that lived in a rural section of the town that I was living in. And I don't know if it's 25 years ago, the government decided to build a dam up there. And people that had been living there for decades, guess what happened to them?
They got displaced.
So the government was kind enough to relocate them and build simple houses for them. But if they were title owners, nobody could make them leave.
Wow. Wow.
So the government was like, you gotta go. And this is where you go. So, and they built a dam. And
that is good. That is good information. Now, does your law office do that type of due diligence, find title deeds or clear title, or, do you all provide those types of services?
We do. We must. We do all of that because the number one investment is real estate. Number one. And it always has been. So we've become, it's become an expertise of the same way that residency under the investment became the niche. So real estate is something we handle, quite thoroughly because we want to make sure that our clients who deposit their trust in us are being taken care of, That
is so wonderful. That's so good to know.
Part of the due diligence is making sure that the tax on the property is up to date.
Yes.
There's a 1% tax annually that must be paid on properties over 150,000 US dollars. You want to make sure no tax is owed. And another part of the due diligence is doing what is called a status, getting a certificate of judicial status. I want to know if there's any litigation tying this down.
Yeah.
Okay. So I go to the court system and I request that, and I can see if nothing is pending. Also, it'll show me if there are any liens. I go to the registry office and see if there are any liens pending. So this is all part of the due diligence. Oh, and finally, if there were any kind of improvements made on the house, I will have that checked on as well. I want to make sure those improvements are up to code. And if they're not, we have one of two. You either walk away or leverage that to bring down the price. Right. One of the two. Okay.
This is good due diligence. So you have a judicial record to make sure there's no litigation. You have go to the registry to make sure there's no liens on the property. You want to make sure that any taxes that are owed are paid on the property. And you want to make sure any improvements to the property are double checked and make sure that it's all up to code, correct?
And yes, and I also do a confirmation of coordinates.
Ooh, what's that?
Whatever in the title, it's going to have the exact coordinates and location of whatever you're buying. I confirm that the coordinates on the title match the actual location.
Oh, that's so good. That's
because
so good.
That is another thing that happens here. You got the title to another
property. Wow.
Don't match. So
are surveys standard with purchasing?
They're standard. Okay. But sometimes you got people that are negligent. You do have people that try to scam. So they try to, so a title is part of it. It's not all, that is the jumping off point for me to really do a due diligence on that property.
Diligence. Oh,
And
that's
also,
good.
when you're talking about a project, part of the due diligence to a tourist project, I want to know if all the permits have been issued. I want to know if if there's a loan on that project. I want to know if the loan is universal. What do I mean by this? I mean that sometimes a project will take out a loan wherein until the loan is paid, the titles are not released. So if they have to first pay the entire loan on that project or in its entirety before the individual titles are released. I want to take a look at that, because you could end up paying a unit and then they have a financial situation where they can't give you the title. And without the title, you got nada.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow. So you have to be careful. Let's summarize that a little bit. So you have to be careful or be knowledgeable when you are purchasing any development, because these huge developments, multi-million-dollar developments going on, they are getting financing for these developments. It's not just financed through the sale of the units, right? It is financing going on. And if it covers all of the units, you won't get title until that loan is paid off. Is that correct?
That it could be one of the setups.
Oh,
like
one of the
that doesn't
setups. Okay.
always happen. I just want to make sure if they have a loan, once I pay my unit, I get my title, even though you're still paying off a loan. Now, let's get into contracts. So glad you brought that up. Let me just say, one of my problems here, and I'm going to say it's not really a problem because whoever can try to get over it. Yeah. So you have this thing and you said it so perfectly. You go to the project, you love it. Okay, sign right here. Wait. First of all, a reserve is something that's paid to take this off the market while I do my due diligence. You're going to give me a reserve agreement, and I'm not talking about let me give you $2,000 so that you give me a little slip. No, it could be a one-page reserve agreement, and that reserve agreement is going to establish that I have X amount of time to complete my due diligence, and at the end of that time, if I don't buy it, well, you could penalize about 20% of what I've paid for keeping it off the market, but you're giving me my money back.
All right now. Yes.
So a lot of these people just give me 2,000, give me 5,000, and this is non-refundable.
They say that. They say that.
That's not legal. And the other thing is, these contracts that developers give out, first of all, I don't care if you do have an attorney. I want an English version, because documents in the Dominican Republic have to be filed in Spanish. That is the national language. But a courtesy English copy should accompany that.
That is something new. Nobody mentioned that you could ask for a courtesy English copy.
Of course, especially if there's not an attorney present. How do they know what they're signing?
Wow, that's good stuff.
Then the other thing is that, developers, their contracts are seller protection. It favors the seller.
Same in the States. My new construction contracts, they are formally written all for the seller.
I went back to one of these developers about 2 weeks ago, and I said, let me tell you something right now. I'm not even going to argue this contract with you. I'm going to file a claim with Consumer Affairs right now.
It was that bad.
That's exactly what I'm doing. This is not even worth me sitting here and arguing. I'm just going to go back and file a claim with Consumer Affairs for abusive clauses. You must be out of your mind.
Wow, that bad, huh?
No, I mean, okay, so listen to this. Let me give you an example. They're going to come out and say, because here, depending on where you buy, you're paying, here is by meter. In the US, they call it square footage. So here, you're like in Punta Cana, depending on where you buy, you're going to pay X amount of dollars per square meter. $35, $40 per square meter, right? That is what the price of that unit is calculated as.
Yes.
Now they're going to put in their contract, since most people buy pre-construction, which is a smart thing. It is. because you're going to end up paying a fraction of the cost. And by the time it gets to the final phases, you're going to get a nice return on your investment if you decide to sell it. Okay, so they're going to turn around and tell me in the contract that if after construction there's a variation in the square footage, the price stays the same. I'm like, really?
I can tell you you're going to get an 800 square meter unit, deliver you 600, and you still gonna pay this 800 square meter
That's
price.
right. And I was like, what color is the sky in your world? Wait a minute, it gets better. Okay, they're gonna turn around and say, things like, if for some reason, like if you're late in payment, if you have a monthly payment and you're late, you're going to pay a 2% penalty. But if they're late in handing over your property, yeah, they give themselves a year.
Oh, wow. You have to pay attention to that. I have never had
penalty free. I'm like, really? So I pay 2% if I'm late, but you're good. Wow. And I'm paying you my money,
So they get an extra year. So all these proposals, these pretty PowerPoints that we look at, it says delivery 2024, delivery 2025. The contract is going to be like, they get another year on top of that.
I saw it and I was like, this is unbelievable. And, the other thing is, first of all, let's talk about the force majeure clause. I love how they
let's talk that.
I love how they spin that. Okay, force majeure is acts of God, like the pandemic.
Yep. Okay,
it is in case there's like a type of a flooding.
Yep.
An act of God type of thing. How are you going to put in there that you're late in getting your permits?
That's not a force majeure at all.
And I'm like, oh, really? You don't get your permits on time. Your third-party providers don't deliver when they should. I mean, it's just like,
that's not force majeure. That's not.
So they start putting things in there that I'm like, really? I'm like, no. That's not going to happen. You're going to take right on out of there because they're trying to cover themselves.
Exactly. Every way that they can. Let me ask you about developer delays. You said, most contracts will they get up to an additional year for delivery. Is there any recourse?
I don't provide. First of all, let me just say that in the Dominican Republic, as is the case with most countries, contract between parties becomes law. As long as it doesn't violate customs or laws of the country, whatever you agree to, that's what you're obligated to. So I never say yes. Okay. If you want to give yourself an additional year, you're cutting down the cost. Your penalty is bringing down my cost. Why? Yes. And how do I calculate that? If I want to put this on it as an Airbnb and I'm losing a year of rental, guess by how much that unit is coming down by?
Airbnb loss.
You're about to not get payments.
Right.
You're about to not get a last payment.
Oh, wow. I love that. So are contracts assignable down there? You know how in the States they call it wholesaling, they'll flip a contract. I'm under contract to purchase a property for $50,000, but it's really, worth 80. So somebody wants to take my place and I'll pocket the $30,000 difference. Are contracts assignable down there?
You are. This is what happens. And by the way, I like that particular solution when a person isn't happy. I just had a client. Now this guy's an engineer, so from the beginning he's all over the developer, he's all over the architect. This man got something to say about everything. Very smart, love him to death, but he's a brain. So obviously it's not like most people, oh, it's coming out pretty. Oh my God, they're gonna deliver beautiful. He's like, I want to know about the electrical output. I want to talk about electrical stations and recharging. This man came out with things I had to look up. Anyway, long story short, he became unhappy. and he had already paid $250,000 on a $280,000 unit. So what happens is he will give permission to the developer to sell forward. And if they recover the amount he has paid, he won't be penalized. Because that's the other thing. If you come toward the end and decide you don't want a unit, you're going to lose. And you could lose depending on what the contract establishes, anywhere from 25 to 40% of what was paid. We don't want to do that. So if you give them that selling forward option, the third party sales is what they call that, then it gets you out of penalties. You get your money back, they sell it to, because usually developers have plenty of people looking to buy. They sell it, no harm done. So that's a good option.
That's a great option. But again, that's a negotiated clause, right? They're not going to be in the standard developer contracts. Is that the case or no?
I have a whole bunch of clauses I add. They give me a 4-page contract, ends up being about 12. But
that's
anyway.
about right. That's about right. That's about right. Are there any contingencies in your contract? Here we have a mortgage contingency. So if you can't get financing, you get out of the contract, get your earnest money back. Inspection contingencies. If it's not up to par, or something, if the roof is leaking, you can get out of the contract.
Well, here's the thing. In Dominican law, there's a 1-year guarantee on bills.
Okay.
So if for 1 year, all these little construction vices start coming out, the developer is obligated to remedy the situation, regardless of what the cost they incur to do it. So they better do it right from the beginning, because if you got to break down the wall and do it over, guess what? You got to cover. That's 1 year of guarantee. Now, part of what I see in some of these developer contracts, they want that guarantee to last 3 months. 3 months. They don't realize, see, foreign buyers don't realize the law gives them a year. So if they signed 3 months, guess what they just did?
3 months. Wow. They took 9 months away from themselves. Wow.
Pretty much, honey. So that's part of what I look out for. So if we don't address it, the law already establishes the year. But if you're going to come out and start putting time frames, I'm like, what the law establishes. I changed that clause. The other thing that has to be said when it comes to when it comes to these contracts, there are not contingencies for mortgage. If you enter into that contract and you're depending on a mortgage, so here's what I recommend. You get a pre-approval.
Yep.
Okay? You get a pre-approval. Now, what is the see, because mortgage processes in the DR for foreigners who don't have credit, who don't have legal status, could take up to a month, maybe a little more. So a pre-approval is just something that they do. It's like they skim through everything and give you a pre-approval, but the process still has to be carried out.
Right.
Now, the reason I want to do that is because mortgage loans are based, like the title of the property is the bank's collateral. So a bank will give you a loan based on that property. So they have to see the title. You understand?
Yep.
So to make
it's the same thing here. Yep.
To make it expedient, they're going to say, okay, give me your information, tax returns, bank statements, whatever. Let me get the title, and they'll give you, because for those who don't have credit here, they do an international credit check. Experian, they'll use, what's the other one? There are 2 others, Experian. There's, yeah. So they're going to use the international.
I forgot the last one.
Yeah, they're going to.
Equifax. That's it.
Equifax, yes. Yep. They're going to do that. They're going to do the credit check international with the credit reporting bureaus back wherever you're from, and they're going to take that into account. Here's my advice. Be smart. Go ahead and, establish the framework here before you get into it. But how do you do that? First of all, You don't need to have residency in order to set up a bank account here. Set one up.
Wow. Great
Set
info.
a
Love
bank
that
account.
gem. Thank
Set
you.
a bank account here and give yourself 6 months to establish credit. How do we do that? There are a few things that establish credit here. The bank transactions, okay? So you start sending money to your account.
Okay.
Have a cell phone. Could be a cheap $30 a month cell phone and pay that.
All
Okay.
right.
So as they see money coming into the account and payment of things, those transactions start to build credit. Get a secured credit card. Okay.
Dominican base from a Dominican base, right? Do I get a Dominican base cell phone and a Dominican base
Yes, girl.
credit
Once
card?
they
Okay.
see this and some banks are 3 months. When they see 3 months of activity, you already started building credit. In 6 months, you don't need Equifax. You don't need Experian. You got your own credit basis here.
Wow.
And if you want to make that loan, and I'll tell you this, mortgages for foreigners without status, they're covering about 60, 70%. If you have residency status, you brought that percentage up to 80 or 90.
That's amazing. On an investment property too?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
So I say in my YouTube channel all the time, people, I know you want this done, but let's slow down the rush. Get your residency first. It takes about 6 or 7 months between visa and residency. Open an account. As part of our residency processes, we include opening up a bank account because we need it for that category of residency anyways, so might as well do it. So I can set up a bank account for you in 24 to 48 hours.
Yes.
I set up a bank account for you. Okay? You start to build credit. You get status. By the time you choose the property you want to invest in, that mortgage, they're covering 80 to 90%.
Wow. What are mortgage rates looking like down there right now for foreigners?
That was my next thing. The interest rates has less to do with your status and more to do with the kind of loan that it is. So mortgage rates with some banks, I know one bank is 5 to 6%.
That's not bad at all. It's actually
but
less than what
most
we're paying right now.
go from anywhere from 10 to 12.
Okay.
10 to 12%. So, you know, and then you're going to find that they give you 1 year fixed rate, and after the year, they allow themselves to adjust it.
Oh,
you know, to inflation. So that's another thing you got to look at. That's another thing you need to look at. You want that
that's different from the developer. That's just your loan documents. That's if you decide to
now the other thing that you could do, there are loans, the seller loans. There are sellers, there are developments like Casa Linda and Puerto Plata. They have quite a few in Punta Cana where they give you, you know, they provide financing. Wow. They do that. But the good thing with pre-construction is as follows. Usually they want you to put down, I don't know, 20%. And then during the life of the construction, let's say another 20 or 30, and then 70 upon delivery. Okay. So you got time before you got to come up with the rest of it. When you're buying pre-construction, that's usually how they have it set up. Usually.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of different plans, all the way from 10% down, 0% down, 60% during construction, the balance upon delivery. I've seen at least 6 different variations.
Yeah, it all depends upon, you know, what development you're buying from. And then you've had people that along the way, they're paying $1,000, $1,200 a month, you know, for, I don't even know, 40 months, 48 months, 36 months, no, 24 months. I've seen that. So it's different plans, and it all depends upon, you know, what goes with your circumstances. Okay.
So real quick, who holds earnest, not your earnest, that's your reserve money, but who holds the money? If I do a plan where I have to pay 60% up front, right?
And now we get into
who's holding that money, right? So here in Illinois, we have title companies. So the title company would hold that, you know, and I would give authorization for release to the developer. Sometimes it goes directly to the developer. How does it work down there?
Okay. I don't want to scare anyone. I don't want to scare people. Escrows are not really used here.
Okay.
You do have law firms that provide that escrow service.
Wow.
Okay.
Escrow's not really used.
It's not used at all, practically not. Okay.
So I'm just turning over my hundreds of $1,000s. Just take my money, right?
Well, basically, you are paying the seller and they have control of the money. What protects you is that contract. So in the event that they do not deliver, that there's a breach of contract, a lawsuit has to take place in civil court. Okay. And they're here. There is a court expressly for real estate. Tribunal de Tierras.
That's awesome.
Tribunal de Tierras. It is especially for real estate purposes, civil matters. Yes, ma'am. So what happens is you will bring on a lawsuit. Why is that particularly dangerous for a developer? Because while the suit is going on, I have a right to place a lien on his bank accounts.
I'm not just gonna say the property. We can't do liens on bank accounts here. We can do.
We can do it here.
On the
I put a
property,
lien on all of his accounts, regardless of the bank that it is.
So this developer who may have multi-millions of dollars in the bank, like let's just say, right, if they're doing a huge project, and my little bitty old self with this $200,000 unit and you know they did a breach, I get to put a lien on all those.
You put a lien on their accounts. Now the lien, of course, because a court case can take a very long time. I won't say no, but in other words, the court can choose to do a release, but still place a lien on all that they have. So while that lien is going on, they can't sell it. They can't transfer it. Basically, it puts a hold on their assets. So nobody wants to get into that mess.
So you have not seen many situations where a developer takes people's money and it doesn't complete a project, or reputable developers.
Of course it's happened. It's happened. They're not reputable developers. They're little rinky dinks. Let me try this out. And then people here sometimes looking to save a buck. They're like, oh, they're selling that unit for 40, 50,000. I think I'll go with them. Don't do any due diligence. Just sign whatever paperwork. They don't even understand it. I mean, there are things, listen, law, as an attorney, you know, that 90% of the law, if not a higher percentage, is common sense.
Yes. Yes.
And then I love it how foreigners come here and will do things here that they would never do back home. What changes? I'm just curious.
What changes once you get over that little ocean?
What makes you? Is it island fever? What is it that makes you just throw caution to the wind? You would never. And I've said this in my YouTube channel. Please, I want to know what it is that as soon as you cross that ocean, you lose it. You know.
You don't think you have to do any due diligence. You don't think you have to. You don't need an attorney. You don't need nothing. You don't need nothing and nobody. You can just do it on your own.
Yeah.
That's terrible. So tell me, what questions you deal with a lot of foreign clients from, I'm assuming, across the globe. What questions do foreigners neglect to ask when buying an investment property?
Can this property be used as an Airbnb?
Wow. You would think that I would think that'd be an obvious one.
They just assume
it's not obvious.
Since the Airbnb is so popular in the DR, I would say is one of the recent phenomenon, you know, of the country. They forget to ask that question. And then another client that I have buys in this tower. And so Airbnb, okay, so there are owners who live in their units once the tower is done, who've become quite upset at the whole Airbnb scenario. Because you have people You have people in the common areas acting all crazy. You have,
Not taking care of the property,
yeah,
right?
it just is, there's an in and out, and it just doesn't feel like a residential, ambiance. It feels like a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel like so they started to complain about that. And now you have towers that are going up where the management, okay, the board is like, we don't want Airbnbs here. Then why did I buy it? So where that client bought, because and by the way, they announced this once, upon the delivery date. They forgot to mention, and they just play stupid, because I'll tell you, if a foreigner that doesn't live in the DR is buying a unit in high riser, you know what they want.
Yes.
So upon delivery date, they laid this on these people.
Wow.
And so right now there's a class action going on.
I was about to say it's about to be a fight because these people didn't spend two or three hundred thousands of dollars, and now you're trying to say I cannot get my investment back. Wow.
It's a nasty cat fight. So you need to ask the question. Okay. You need to ask the question, because, and the other thing is, when you're going to buy, listen, there is a set design, but people have their preferences. Okay. So you have to talk about or submit the changes you want to make, before they advance in the phases. And then it needs to be determined how that is going to affect the cost of the unit and how the payment should be made. Because don't tell me I'm going to make the changes and then I'll tell you the additional cost at the end, which is what a lot of people, that happens a lot. And I'm like, no, you're not going to tell me that at the end, because we got to do, budget control here.
Right. That's right.
And then at the end, you're going to come down with 20 grand more over some changes that I don't feel are worth it. And then we're going to be in another cat fight. So if you are going to modify, and that's very common, Alexis, 9 out of 10 people will modify the design of, their apartment. They want to add this, they want to take this. This is what happened to the client.
So actually that's good to know, because that means the developers are amenable to it.
No, and as long as it's not a complete variation of it, they don't mind. And I'm saying things like, look, I want a jacuzzi in that bathroom. I want to make this room smaller, turn it into 2. Like, they'll do things like that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But now you have to ask, I don't want that countertop. I want a different color, and I want to vary the thickness. So yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
That's the other issue that they need to ask about.
Wow. Okay. So it's good to know that in some of these developments, you can do a degree or of customizations to a level, and developers will be amenable to it. But the important thing is get the cost up front. You can't agree to that if you don't have your costs up front and when those costs are going to be due.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Oh, God.
None of this about I'll let you know at the end.
That is so good. Now, do the units come with, back to your engineer client, right? He was talking about electrical output and things like that. Is Wi-Fi, like high-speed Wi-Fi included? Does the island capable of handling that? Level electrical output, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it is. It is. It absolutely is, especially in the more modern units, all of that, that's not even an issue at all.
Okay, good.
And I think that, when it comes to purchases, we're hitting the developers hard. I've gone through it with those people. They're like, oh, here she comes.
Go again. That's good. I'm glad that you have a reputation with
it. No, it's not always a good thing, because sometimes they see you coming and they just get on fight mode, and I haven't said anything.
Right. I haven't said a thing at all.
I haven't said anything. And they're just like, here she comes. Get ready for it. And so, no, but when you're buying an individual home, people who want to buy a home to flip, you know, and you're going to buy, and I have clients, you know, that they do this back home. So they're like, I want to buy this rundown place, set it up nice and resell it. And they'll probably resell it to a foreigner for a good amount. Especially in those homes, much has to be done to make sure that everything is up to code. Okay. And whatever, you know, improvements you're doing have to be up to code. Because what if the other person that's buying checks into it and realizes that, you know, your job is not up to code, that your improvements are not quality improvements, that later on they're going to have to, you know, shoulder the expense is going to be theirs to fix whatever you didn't do right. So a lot has to, you know, goes into it when you're buying just an individual home that was built. I'll be honest, a lot of clients, and I love this type of setup, there are projects that do not sell units, they sell lots. Love it. Love it, because from start to finish, that's your show. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so they give you, like in Puerto Plata, it's called the Puerto Plata Country Club. It's on a mountain, on a hilltop, and it has about 6 phases. And it's gonna operate, you know, as a tourist, as a kind of a tourist complex, because it has a restaurant, it has a social club, okay, a social area. It has a pool, an outdoor common pool. It's gonna have a supermarket, like it's gonna have all these things, and it's advancing in phases, but they're selling the lot. And you either can build the design they suggest using their builder, or you find your own.
Okay. Wow, that's good. So, Maria, we have talked so much about buying an investment property that a lot of times we don't talk about exit strategy as an investor, right? As an investor, I tell people you should always have an exit strategy, whether it's a long-term strategy or short-term strategy, whatever it is, you should have a strategy. So we get into the buying, right? And nobody talks about selling. So what are the requirements, legalities, if I'm selling my investment property in DR? What are the taxes associated that, you know, here in Illinois, we'll have state tax, we have county tax, and in the city of Chicago, we'll have city of Chicago tax, right?
Well, here you basically have to deal with capital gains.
Okay. Okay.
For a corporation, it's 27%. For an individual, is 0 to 25%, depending on the worth of the property. Now, I'm glad you brought up taxes, okay? Because when you buy a property, to transfer that property from the previous title owner to your name, you have to pay a 3% tax. Okay. Now, that's a 3% tax on the worth of the property, okay? I want to put a star on this particular comment, but if you have investment if you have residency through the investment program, you're exempted that tax.
Wow. So that's a boom for the residency through investment program. Okay.
You are also exempted from paying any tax on the income generated by the unit. So if this is an Airbnb that's doing well, you have residency through the investment program for 3 years, you're tax free. Okay.
That's so good.
I'm gonna give you another little trick talking about taxes. Okay. Listen, to sell a property, it's a very straightforward process. Outside of capital gains, you're not worried. It's the buyer that got to worry about the taxes.
Okay, good to know.
The transfer tax, the capital gains is you. Okay. And you have to make sure that in the event that you have to, you know, that you have to pay the property. If your property is 150,000 or more, you got to make sure to pay that annual property 1%. Tax.
1%.
Okay. Another star on this next comment. Folks with residency under the investment program are also exempt from paying that property tax.
For how long?
3 years.
Wow. Okay.
And if you're 65 years or older, you don't pay taxes anyway.
Is that period as an investor or only through the residency through investment program and you're 65 years old?
65 and over don't pay property taxes.
Okay? Wow. That is, so you're exempt from that 1% regardless if you're 65 and older buying an investment property there.
Yeah, but if for the younger bucks that want to get that exoneration, you want to get that residency and the investment program. But here's the sharper pill. If you buy a CONFOTUR certified property, and I'm gonna tell you what CONFOTUR is. The Ministry of Tourism years ago, it always has had this taxing, is a special taxing incentives for hotels. It's an island. We want hotels to come here, so let's give them a special incentive. 2010, that incentive was extended to projects that foment tourist investment. What does that mean? It means that any project, even if the units are individually owned and occupied by the owners, functions as a tourist project, it qualifies for the CONFOTUR incentive.
Wow.
So basically, if I buy in one of those projects in Punta Cana, and it has its pool, social area, all that other jazz that it has, it's a complex, they all have CONFOTUR. What is the CONFOTUR incentive? The Ministry of Tourism provides this incentive 15 years tax-free straight across the board. You don't pay the transfer tax, 3%. You don't pay property tax. You don't pay tax on the income earned by the unit.
For 15 years.
And that is whether you have residency or not, whether you are under 65 or not.
Wow.
Because that project is attracting foreign investment. So as an incentive, the Ministry of Tourism certifies it CONFOTUR. And so when you buy that property, you get that certification indicating you're tax-free 15 years.
To get the certification, or can I, as the individual unit purchaser, apply for that certification?
What was that again? Because you cut off.
I said, does the developer have to apply for that certification, or do I, as the individual unit purchaser, apply for the CONFOTUR certification?
No. It gives it to the developer, and then each owner of the units gets their own certificate.
So does every developer apply for CONFOTUR, or certain developments are doing it, other ones aren't? You have to ask.
Not all of them do. It's unfortunate, not all of them do, but a good number. Because that's an incentive. The minute you say CONFOTUR, I talk about that in my channel. I talk about that in my conference, which, by the way, I would like to invite you as an honorary guest with expenses paid to our conference in August.
Oh my goodness.
Come on now, girl, we'll cover your expenses because it's going to show it. That conference will talk about everything. Corporate structures, taxes, how to develop raw land, Airbnb management. How do we do that here? So it's going to have a lot of stuff. So any of you guys that want to come, and you're coming on our dime, girl.
What did I see? Oh my goodness. I was completely not expecting that whatsoever. Oh my God. Thank you. I'm in complete shock right now. Complete shock. Oh my God. Thank you so much for that wonderful offer. That is so generous of you.
Oh,
so
honey,
generous.
We love it. Listen,
please, let's stop. Let's stop for a minute. We need to talk about the conference so that people know about the conference. First of all, tell us the name of the conference, the dates, and the website link where they can go and register and see more about this conference. And then we'll talk about what all is going to go on at this conference.
Well, it's going to be in the Crown Plaza in Santo Domingo on the waterfront.
And the name of the conference?
Well, the name of the consortium is Retire and Invest in Dominican Republic Mastermind Series 1. Okay. And we're going to be talking about all the investment opportunities. We're going to have different projects from around the country. We're going to talk about banking and mortgages. Okay. Requirements, how to fast track your mortgage. So we have banks coming down to talk and present. We're going to be talking about, the process to purchase, real estate. We're going to talk about how to develop raw land, what are the requirements. We're going to have people from the Ministry of Tourism coming down, what to look for. A lot of tricks.
I love it. So you
lot
have
of
government
tricks coming
officials.
down the line.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be having management companies, how to handle an Airbnb in the DR when you don't live here.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about a good deal of anything investment. That's what we're going to talk about. The website is, the email is info. Wait a minute. I swear I should know this by now. Where's Omar?
I think it's InvestDRmastermind.com, everybody.
Yes,
InvestDRmastermind.com.
Look, y'all, I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. I'm like Rain Man. It's like I could tell you anything legal and on any case, but if you ask me a simple question, where's the light switch? I can't answer.
That's what
Y'all need to understand that
I
right
got
now.
your back, Maria. InvestDRmastermind.com.
And we'll send you the link.
The Crown Plaza, Santo Domingo on the waterfront. Wow.
And Alexis is coming as a special guest.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God, Maria. Oh my goodness. And this conference is crazy affordable, you all. Wow. This is incredible. Yeah. Incredible.
So I'm going to see if Omar sends you the link so you could put it there. So whoever wants to register, I want to know who's coming.
I'll definitely.
So I'm going to give your people very special attention. You're going to love it. We have, after the first day, we have a cocktail, a welcome cocktail. We're going to have live entertainment. You get to feel the DR, and then we're going to be arranging tours to whoever wants to go to the different parts to look at the different projects if you're interested in that. And then to all of the presenters afterward and special guests, we're going to do a dinner. We do a dinner the second day. But what I love about this conference, this is what I try to do. I try to keep it light because it's an overload of information. The good thing is we provide complimentary recordings of the entire conference to all the attendees because it's just a lot. So you always want this good synergy. You want this good energy to be around, you want to make sure that people are absorbing information but don't burn out on you,
Because they'll shut down. They'll shut down. They have information overload.
It is. And we try to keep it simple. We try to keep it manageable so that people understand what's going on, but they don't feel like, brain fried. But it's going to be a lot of really good information.
Wow, Maria, this is absolutely incredible. And I think that the best part is having a professional such as yourself who has walked this road, who understands the mind of a foreign investor, whether you just want to be an investor or you want to be an expat, right? You understand the mind, you understand the need, you understand things that we're not going to think about because we're so ingrained in whatever our current country culture is and legalities and business. We're so ingrained in that. And you're like, okay, I got you on the DR side. I got your back. The protections we're looking for, that level of expertise. Oh my God. That is an investor's dream, Maria, to have that type of professional holding them down, watching their back, asking the questions and giving them the information that they wouldn't otherwise think to ask just for lack of knowledge. You've got that knowledge. Thank you, Maria. This has been absolutely incredible. I want every investor to feel at ease in reaching out to Maria and her law firm and retaining them for whatever it is. So, Maria, tell us a little bit about all of the services, because you are basically a one-stop shop for a foreign professional, investor, real estate, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter what country you're coming from. You are one-stop shop. So, because you were talking to me about capital funding groups, I have clients who do this. I have clients who are investors. I have clients who... Tell us about the legal and business services that your firm offers that foreign investors would be all over you for.
Well, besides the residency and citizenship, because I tell you, people come into my office and they don't even talk. They're like, I want a second passport. I'm like, that's real good, but we got to go through residency first. One step at a time. All immigration needs. We do corporate structures. We help with banking. Okay, we set up banking and financial structures, investments of all sorts, because we're talking about real estate, but this is one of the things we're going to talk about in the mastermind. Okay, so you have different investment products. You have the bond market. Okay, you have banking products that are trying to become more competitive, but the bond market is beating them hands down. Got to say it. Okay, right now we're getting a little bit into the crypto. Okay, we're shedding light. How do people that want to use cryptocurrency, we're navigating how they can do that here in the country, from
Wow.
daily
Okay.
expenses to real estate. Okay, and also, besides anything having to do with real estate, uh, financial,
Yes, let's talk about that.
financial. So people come to us with an idea. They want to do a project. We want to do, we want to do a big, hotel complex. We have clean energy. Right now, there are people that, they turn garbage into natural gas, you know.
Love it.
Uh, so anything out there that constitutes a good idea, we pair these people up with capital funding groups that we represent.
Wow.
So we structure deals where people with a good idea, people with a big plan, but no funding can obtain.
Wow. And I'm assuming your
And the
capital
deals
investors, are they
are,
DR based?
yeah, it doesn't have to just be DR. I'm going to announce this now that I haven't done it, but we're in the process of setting up Abreu is going to have an international section, an international department. So that's going to be dedicated to deals, worldwide.
Wow.
Right now, we're dealing with, I can't say the name of the client because of attorney-client privilege, but they're in Asia and they're one of the largest companies in the world. One of their divisions wants a line of credit, and one of the capital funding groups is going to provide it.
Wow, that's huge.
So we deal with those as well.
Wow. That is fantastic, Maria. Absolutely fantastic. So again, you all, those who are interested in investing in real estate in the DR, Maria Abreu and Associates is your one-stop shop for everything from financing leads to legal representation for your contracts, everything under the sun dealing with real estate. If it touches real estate, you need to be touching Maria. Okay. If it touches real estate, you need to touch Maria.
If Alexis and I decided that we want to head up a project, which I think would be a good idea, we would have the funding available to us.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, absolutely, Maria. I love the way you think. So Maria, give us your website, your company website, give us that so that people can reach out to you. We already know the InvestDRmastermind.com is the website for the mastermind conference you have coming up in August, you all. This is going to be probably one of the most comprehensive investment conferences that I've seen.
Because
it's your website.
Break it down for you the way we just did now. It's a conversation. Yes. And the good thing that within those 2 days, all of the presenters attending will be in an exhibition hall, ready to give you your own consultation free of charge.
Wow. So, that's the added plus right there.
I got people that went in there and started getting all their documents and started applying for a bank loan. I had 3 people open up an account the last time on the spot.
On the spot.
And 3 of them applying for loans.
Wow. Come on, Marie. Yes. This is so exciting, you all. This is so exciting. So Maria, what's your company website?
The website is www.abreuimmigration.com. One of them is Abreu at abreuimmigration.com, and the other one is abreuimmigration@gmail.com.
Okay. So we have abreuimmigration.com, and then we have InvestDRmastermind.com. And you all, if you all want more information into Maria, go to her YouTube channel. I was so impressed, probably because she gives such great information like I do on my channel. I'm like, oh, she's fabulous. Look how she answers these questions. You all know I am a giver of information. I try to help whenever I can. And I can tell Maria, as you can tell from this interview yourself, Maria has the same type of heart and perspective. She wants to give you the information that you can make the right, best decision for yourself. So check out her YouTube channel. She's got great content up there, so that you can get more information and do your own due diligence as well on investing in the DR. So Maria, thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate it, and we cannot wait to see what your conference is about. InvestDRmastermind.com, you all. Sign up today. When you all go on that website and see the price, you're gonna be like, oh my God, are you serious? Like this is what you're charging? Like this is nothing. It's nothing, you all. We go spend on a nice dinner, which she's charging. We literally spend on a nice dinner here. So get down with her mastermind, with her conference, and get down to the DR. Okay. Maria, any closing remarks?
I want to thank you for having me. I love your energy. I'm going to say the same thing. I went to your YouTube and said, wow, she is, we are cut by the same scissor. And I love it. And you do it in a way where you make people feel warmed up to you, comfortable, because whenever you talk about money and banking and investment, people get nervous.
Yeah, they do. And I'm learning to lean into that more because God has truly given me a money call on my life and to help people and to guide people with integrity with their money. But because the world and culture makes you feel so uneasy about money, people want to stay away from it. They don't want to talk about it. But honestly, I would talk about money every day. My husband gets sick of it, right? Because my next question, after he says something, my
husband got sick of it.
How much does that pay? How much can we get out of that, right? And I have to just walk into that is what God has blessed me with. We're gonna talk about money, and we're gonna make sure everybody's good with it.
I love your money is a relationship like any other. If you have yourself a friend that you kind of you push away, there are more important things than you, your friend's going to pick up on that and they're not going to be close to you. Now, when you give that friend the proper attention, you understand their worth.
Yes.
You make them feel welcome. They're going to come to you. Woo! And the money is the same thing, honey. It comes to whoever appreciates it.
Yes, whoever appreciates it.
Yes, can't talk about money like it ain't important. I love your attitude, girl.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you, Maria. We so appreciate you all. One last time, InvestDRmastermind.com. Sign up, get your flights, you all. It's going to be an amazing trip in August, and you only got to take 2 days out for the conference, and the rest of the time, enjoy your stay in the DR. All right? All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.